I'm going to show you how to make content like this for your clothing brand. Oi! Oh fuck. Hi, my name is Santo. I'm a videographer / filmmaker, and I shoot content for clothing brands as well as owning my own clothing brand as well. Now that you know who I am, let's not waste any time and get straight into the video. Number 1, pre-production. This step is very important, and from all the shoots that I've been to, this is probably the most important part. Make sure you're planning before you're going out to shoot, and obviously you need to come up with a story first as well. Don't think you can just get to the location and then think of a story. Now with your story, what I would say is probably stay away from anything that has too much dialogue. But if obviously you need to add dialogue, then I would recommend only doing like one-liners or maybe a couple of lines. You probably don't have the budget to hire actors who actually know how to act. It's a lot harder for inexperienced people to act when they have to deliver lines. There's just something about the way they say their lines that doesn't feel real or authentic. So yeah, no dialogue. But obviously if you do have the budget to hire some actual actors, then definitely add that in there, because obviously that will mean there'll be a lot more that you can actually do. It doesn't hurt to try though. If you feel like your friends can act, or if they feel like they can act, just try it out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and if it works, it works. But yeah, don't think that just because you can't have any dialogue in there that you're limited and there's not much you can do, because trust me, there's a lot that you can do in terms of shooting a cinematic sequence without any dialogue. I do it all the time. It just might mean that you might have to use sound or music to carry the story forward, or maybe you might have to get your actor to make their movements a little bit more animated. But yeah, once you've got your story, now it's time to figure out your location. Now this needs to be matching the story and the vibe that you're trying to go for. Don't make the mistake of just going out to shoot anywhere. Take some actual time to go location scouting, but make sure not to do it on the same day. Do it like a week or maybe a couple of days before the shoot, because remember, you've got models with you and you might only have them for a limited amount of time. So you need to make sure that you're making the most of that time and actually using it to be shooting and making content, not wasting your time going around trying to find the location because you didn't do it a day before or a week before. And obviously this ties in with the pre-production as well, because imagine if you've booked like a studio space and you haven't planned any of your shots. You're gonna get there and now you're gonna start thinking about what to shoot, blah, 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 blah. And before you know it, an hour's gone and you're running out of time and you've wasted the money that you spent on the studio. That's a mistake that me and my brand made when we started early on, so don't do that. And also your models will appreciate you a lot more if you're prepared, because obviously the shoot will be a lot smoother, everything will feel a lot more organized, and you're just gonna be able to just get through every shot or every piece of content a lot quicker. And you probably will be able to shoot a lot more content as well. Think of yourself as like a director. You're the one that's making sure that everything is running smoothly and that everyone knows what they're doing. What I like to do is I like to send like a brief to like the models or anybody else that's gonna be at the shoot, so everyone kind of knows what the shoot is gonna be about and what's sort of expected of them. Once you've got your location, you want to make like a shot list. You want to do this so that on location you can have like a checklist and just tick off all the shots that you've done. Don't make the mistake of thinking that you can just rely on your memory, because you can very easily miss a shot, and sometimes it's a crucial shot for the story to make sense, and without it you can't tie it all together. Trust me, it's happened to me before, so avoid doing that. Once you're on location, make sure that you're shooting in manual, and if you don't know how to do this, then spend some time learning it before you actually go out and shoot anything. Trust me, it's worth it. That way you can control your ISO, your shutter speed, and your aperture. And obviously if you want your videos to look cinematic, then you're going to need to be in control of those 3 things. I go into it in more detail in this video that I will link to the top of the screen, so feel free to go and check it out. Make sure your white balance is also not on auto, because obviously you don't want your white balance to be changing in between shots. That's going to make sure that all your footage looks consistent, so that when you take it into the edit, you don't end up with some videos that look a lot cooler or some that look a lot warmer. You're just saving yourself a lot of headache. Now if you're new to white balance, then what I would say is, if you're shooting outside, set it at 5600 Kelvin. If you're shooting on a cloudy day outside, maybe set it around 6000 Kelvin. And if you're shooting indoors with a tungsten light bulb, then set it at around 3200. But obviously you don't have to follow these too strictly. Sometimes you might want to use the white balance to have like a stylized look. As long as you know how to use it, then you can play around with it. If you're going to be shooting on iPhone, then I would recommend downloading the Blackmagic camera app. It's going to give you the same sort of flexibility that you would get with a camera in terms of adjusting the settings. You can adjust your ISO, your shutter speed, your aperture, your frame rate, that sort of stuff. But yeah, set your frame rate at 24 frames per second, your shutter speed at 1/48, and your ISO, you can sort of play with it depending on how bright or how dark the location is. Think of it as like a brightness adjuster, but obviously don't abuse it too much, because for example, if you're in a dark place and you try to brighten up the image by bringing up the ISO, if you push it too much, it's not going to look great. You're going to end up having footage that is very noisy and grainy. Next thing you need to consider as well is what picture profile you're shooting in. And obviously if you got the option to shoot in a log profile, then I would recommend doing it. If you're new to log, then I'll give you a quick rundown. Think of your camera as recording information. When you're recording in a standard picture profile, if there's any parts of the image where it's really bright or really dark, then information is lost in those parts of the image. That's because your camera is trying to make the information look good now and sort of ready to go. So it looks punchier, it looks more contrasty and more saturated. As a result, your camera basically throws away anything that it can't handle, like really bright parts or really dark parts of the image. For example, as you can see, a lot of information is lost coming out of that window and it looks pure white and natural. Obviously we know that outside a window it doesn't look like that, it doesn't look just pure white, but it's obviously looking like that because information is lost. But when you shoot in log, you're basically telling your camera that you don't care about the image looking good right now. Your main focus is to save as much information as possible, which compresses the image and it makes the image look really flat and it gives it that sort of faded look. But obviously when you take it into the edit, you can bring that information back by stretching it out again, which means, as you can see on this shot, we've retained more information at that window than we did had we shot it normally. Now you should be able to shoot and log with most cameras, but if you're going to be using your iPhone, then you need to have an iPhone 15 Pro or higher. Now that you know all this, you're ready to begin shooting. Now when you're shooting, make sure that you're getting a different variety of different types of shots. Remember that your goal is to market your products, so you need to be showing them in all kinds of angles. One of the first mistakes I made when I was starting out was that I sort of forgot what the actual goal was, which was obviously to market the products, but I was too focused on telling the story. So the story was great, but there just wasn't enough variety in my shots, and obviously that meant I wasn't really showcasing the products as much as I could have. Make use of close-ups to show the audience little details in your product or your clothing, and then obviously you can also use wide shots to sort of show the audience the overall look depending on what the product is. So for example, if it's a tracksuit, then a wide shot would obviously show the audience what a tracksuit looks like as a whole, and then obviously throw in some medium shots in there as well to tie it all together. Another thing I will say is that if you're going to have multiple people in these shots, then make sure that they're all wearing your products or they're wearing something that doesn't stand out too much, preferably something black. You obviously want to make your product stand out as much as possible, so don't have in there anything that can be distracting, any sort of bright clothing that could take attention away from your product, because obviously you're here to market your brand, not other people's brand. Try not to have too many people at the shoot as well. I know it would be fun to bring all your people around, have a good time, but at the end of the day, you're there to get your content and market your brand, so the least distractions, the better. And trust me, the less people you have on the shoot, the more efficient you're gonna be. That don't mean that you're not allowed to have fun though, because obviously these shoots, they are supposed to be fun. For example, I've enjoyed every single shoot that I've been at, whether it was for my brand or whether it was for other brands as well. I've always enjoyed every single one of them. So yeah, if you're not enjoying it, then you're probably doing something wrong. Last but not least, make sure that you show some appreciation for your models. Trust me, it goes a long way, especially if you're not necessarily paying them or they're sort of doing it for free because they're your friend or your cousin. It's still their time that they've chosen to spend trying to help you market your brand. So yeah, don't forget that. Now, after all these tips that I've given you, if you feel like it sounds like a madness or you'd rather a pro do it for you, then feel free to check out my video production company. It's called Stitch Bear Production, and I'll have the link in the description. But if you've watched the video up until this point, then you might as well subscribe to my channel. And if it's not too much to ask, drop a comment and a like. Let me know what you struggle with the most when it comes to shooting for your brand. But yeah, thank you very much for watching up until this point, and I will see you on the next one.